The monkey's dilemma, how many of you wonder what in the heck does that mean? Tiffany, how do they catch monkeys? Okay, so they drill a hole, they bore a hole in a tree or log or something, they hollow out the inside. The monkey, they put the monkey's absolute favorite food in there. When the monkey comes and reaches their hand in the hole and they grab onto the peanuts, they can put their hand in when they don't have a fist, but as soon as they put a fist around the peanuts, they can't get their hand out anymore. They hold on for their dear life to the peanuts. The interesting thing is you could put other food out in front of them, just a foot out of their reach. You could put an entire banquet table in front of them, and the monkeys won't let go of the peanuts. Why do you suppose that's so? What do you suppose is driving the monkey's behavior in that case? On the most fundamental level, they won't let go of the peanuts because they're afraid of starving to death. They're afraid of starving to death. They have them in their hands. They're afraid of starving to death. So rather than let go of the peanuts, what they'll do is they will hold on for dear life. If the hunters don't come back, guess what will happen? They'll starve to death. They'll starve to death. Tonight, what we're going to be talking about is how we do that. So as I've gone out and worked with hundreds or thousands of individuals and business owners all over the country, one of the things that I've seen consistently is most of us have peanuts that we've grabbed a hold of in life that we don't let go of. We hold on to them for dear life because we don't know any better. We can have the banquet of life sitting right out in front of us and we won't let go because we have something in our hands that we know, at least we know what the outcome is. It's terrifying often to let go of those. In the monkey's case, if they hold on long enough, the peanuts will get rotten. Okay, they'll get rotten and moldy. They're not even edible anymore, and the monkeys will still continue to hold on to them. I'll tell you that here's, from my experience, the biggest moldy peanuts that people have is when they're in things that on a 1 to 10 scale, they're in something that's a 7 or an 8. Those are moldy peanuts. When it's a 7 or an 8 because it's okay. It's not horrible, it's okay. And the fear is that if I let go of this, I might end up with something that's a 5 or 6, or I might end up with a 3. And so I hold on to things that aren't working the way that I know that I want them to. They're not working that great, but I hold on anyway. Okay? In this case, let's talk about moldy peanuts. So a job could be one. Holding on to a job that's not working. Anything else? Excuses. My excuses, okay. My stories, my excuses, my ego. Okay, my past could be moldy peanuts, absolutely. My circumstances. Being right could be a moldy peanut. Why do we hold on to those? We're comfortable. Sometimes are we even uncomfortable holding on to these? When we have bad communication styles, or communication styles that don't work very well, is that comfortable? Or is there a lot of conflict, usually a lot of frustration? So here's kind of where we're going to talk about tonight is how to get through this. How many of you right now as I'm talking, you recognize something about your life that you could see it being a moldy peanut? Something that you're holding on to. So we're gonna talk about some ways out of this. From my experience, if this single problem right here, if people learn to solve this in their personal life, in their careers, in their business lives, in their relationships, their marriages, if they do this with their children, if they learn how to let go of things that aren't working at optimal levels, and they develop that habit, that process, those people are far, far more successful than people who don't. The most successful people that I know, one of the things that's great about them is they quickly recognize what are the moldy peanuts in their life and they let go of them. Here's my experience of why people why they don't drop their moldy peanuts. One of the biggest reasons is because they don't recognize them. They don't even know that they have one. Often, this is something that's as good as it's ever been for you. Moldy peanuts. So let's dive into those. Here's the other concept that I want to bring in with the moldy peanuts concept is what if we learned a way, what if there's a way to get through these things quicker by identifying what they were and then going through a process of of change. Here's one that I've discovered that works well. I call it frequency. I had this software company, and I had a good friend of mine. His name was Tom. And Tom was a sales, well, actually he wasn't a sales. Tom was a friend of mine. He had no software experience and no sales experience. But because he was a friend, he absolutely qualified to be a salesperson for my software company. Okay, he met the number one criteria, which is being a friend of mine. So I hired Tom his first month in on the job because I knew he was going to have to be trained. I wasn't surprised when I got my sales reports, and his report said he had 0 sales. I didn't even bat an eye. I thought, he's learning our software, not a big deal. At the end of 2 months, Tom still had 0 sales on the sales report. And I was a little bit concerned, but I thought, it's taken him longer than I thought it would to become a sales guy. At the end of 3 months, Tom had 0 sales. And for the first time after 3 months, I stopped him in the hall and said, hey, dude, I noticed you haven't got any sales yet. What's going on? And he said, you know what? I've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Next month is great. I'm going to have a lot of sales next month. And I said, because I was an excellent manager, I said, cool. That's awesome. That's what I'm looking for. At the end of 4 months, guess how many sales Tom had? 0. He had 0 sales. And I stopped him in the hallway again. He said, I got this one really big deal I'm working on, but the guy's wife went in the hospital, and it got pushed into next month. This is a big deal, though, and we're going to make a lot of money on that deal. And I said, because I'm an excellent manager, cool. That's my word, by the way. Cool. And he said, and so at the end of 5 months, 0 sales. 6 months, 0 sales. At 6 months, I decided in my head, I remember consciously making the decision saying, you know what, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Tom was a bad hire, was not a good sales guy. And I kept him on because it was the middle of October and there's no way I could let my friend go right before the holidays. So I kept him on because next month was Thanksgiving and the month after that was Christmas. And sometime about mid-February, after 10 months of 0 sales, I finally called Tom in my office and said, you know what, this isn't working. In this case, I had a 10-month frequency. If I looked in my organization, when I made decisions, whether it was a marketing decision, whether it was a hiring decision, whether it was a product development decision, it took me about 10 months to go through the whole cycle of making a decision, determining if it works or not. We make too many decisions. Most of them don't work the way we think they're going to work. Most of them do not turn out the way we expect them to turn out. Okay, and so if that's true, if most of the decisions we make they don't hit where we think they should hit, and it doesn't mean that most of them are all completely wrong, it doesn't mean they all completely collapse, it just means I hire this person or I do this and I'm expecting this response or I'm expecting this result and I get something less than that. And then the question comes, now what do I do? If I have this thing that's going on with my wife, that we have this missing communication, if I wait 10 months between responding a different way to see how it works, over 5 years I could test 6 things to see if there's one that works better. Okay? What if I could take my frequency in life though and I could increase it? What if I made it faster? What if I got it down to a 1-month frequency instead of a 10-month frequency? Over that same 5-year period, how many different things could I attempt or could I see if they work in my life? 60, 6 or 60? Now, which one of those people is going to be more successful? 60. Every time. How much more successful? 10 times. There's one of my favorite stories about this is Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison had a fantastic, incredible frequency. When he was asked, he wrote in his memoirs, in his journal, that when he went to invent the electric light bulb, he had this vision of what the electric light bulb would be. He said that he spent over 10,000 attempts in inventing the electric light bulb. He made over 10,000 attempts. Can you imagine how fast his frequency would have to be? I mean, literally, it'd have to be minutes. Take him minutes of saying, that didn't work, 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 10,000 times. And someone asked him once, a journalist asked him once, wasn't that frustrating? Wasn't it frustrating having 10,000 things that didn't work? Didn't you want to give up? And he said, no, because every single time he said, I found 10,000 ways that electric light bulbs don't work. Every time I found a way that they didn't work, I knew I was one step closer to finding a way that they did. And it was simply a matter of going through 10,000 attempts before he finally found one that worked. Was that one way worth the 10,000 attempts? Sure, it changed humanity.